probably seen this man's face before. He is arguably one of the most well-known and influential men in Latin America. He is seen on flags, shirts, and media even to this day. He is Che Guevara, revolutionary, author, and hero to many. The vast majority of people know this man exclusively for his truculent, successful, and distinguished abolitionist career in Latin America, notably the well-known Cuban Revolution. However, one aspect of said career often overlooked is his impact on Latin American education as a result of these uprisings. His actions, with the help of his colleagues, would drastically improve the lives of countless children by directly revolutionizing the education system in Cuba. Albeit, it was not done without a heavy price paid. Che Guevara was a devious, violent revolutionary. He blindly mass-murdered countless individuals, criticized free speech, and has innumerable quotes advocating violence even when evidently unnecessary. Be that as it may, it is undeniable that Guevara has implemented a lasting positive impact on Latin America. As a result, Cuba now outcompetes the United States and the United Kingdom in regards to literacy rates. But first, what led Guevara to becoming a chief revolutionary in the first place? Born in 1928 in the city of Rosario, Argentina, the soon-to-be guerrilla leader excelled in school. As a medical student, Guevara traversed the South American continent and witnessed the poverty-stricken wastelands in utter terror. It was at this point when Guevara had made up his mind that imperialism, or capitalism, had caused this. Henceforth, he looked to Marxism. Not only did Guevara believe that such an ideology was simply more forgiving and efficient than capitalism, but also that if anything were to change, the youth must become involved in some way. For instance, in his diaries, which were composed during his Latin American journey, Guevara explains, "The future belongs to the people, and gradually, or in one strike, they will take power, here and in every country. The terrible thing is, the people need to be educated, and this they cannot do without taking power, only after." Based on this excerpt, we can understand that Guevara did not get to act upon his aspirations to achieve higher education immediately in his career. However, this text proves it was a goal of his from the very beginning, from the moment he saw those poverty-stricken wastelands. So this brings us to the next portion of the discussion, being that Che Guevara saw the abuse, saw the disorder, and had intentions to do something about it. As was stated heretofore, Guevara was a very passionate student. He knew that if he were to ever turn Latin America into an advanced region on this planet, education will have to be a priority in his efforts. Clearly, to him, the child was just as important as the revolutionary. Eventually, a troubled and ambitious Guevara came in contact with the legendary Fidel Castro while working at a hospital and joined his forces in Mexico City. They were called the 26th of July movement. Over time, Guevara found that Fidel Castro believed in many of the things he did, and in an interview, Castro even described Guevara as being a brother of his.
Es como si me dijeran me aconsejaran que me librara de Raúl.
Consequently, they would quickly become good friends and a very influential couple. At last, Che Guevara finally saw the opportunity to turn his dreams into a reality. July 26th, 1953. The Cuban Revolution is in full swing, with the intention of overthrowing American ideologies and leadership in the area. Although Che Guevara was not the mastermind of this operation, he played a key role in a sequence of events which would dictate the future of Cuba for the next half-century. By 1959, about 4 years later, the conflict had ended, and Fidel Castro was in control after overthrowing US-backed capitalist leader Fulgencio Batista. In Batista's book, called Cuba Betrayed, he goes over how the anarcho-communist process has, quote, destroyed the tranquility and well-being of the Cuban family. Nevertheless, the rebels and the Cuban people thrived subsequent to the revolution. With enemy opposition finally removed, Guevara eventually spoke on the topic of imperialism and America.
Porque es la naturaleza del imperialismo la que bestializa a los hombres, la que la convierte en fieras sedientas de sangre.
After the revolution, he promptly sought to reform laws, establish communist regulations, and most notably, launch an undeniably prosperous literacy campaign. The Cuban literacy campaign is, according to all reliable sources, one of the most enthusiastic, organized, and successful literacy campaigns in the history of this planet. Under the newly established government chiefed by Fidel Castro, Che Guevara's leadership in this field led to skyrocketing literacy rates, from a minimum of 60% to roughly 96% in only 1 year. Such diligent efforts still live up to this day. Cuban literacy rates rivaled both the United States and the United Kingdom directly after the campaign was completed, and since the upload date of this video, as stated beforehand, the Cuban literacy rate has since passed that of both first world nations mentioned. Given these circumstances, how did he do it? Acknowledgingly, he did not do it alone. In fact, revolutionary Fidel Castro gets more recognition for the great achievement than Guevara does, when in reality, the credit should be equally split. What we mustn't forget is that Guevara was the one who first noticed the problem and generated a logical solution to solving it, with the help and power of his close friend, Fidel Castro. Because of a lack of freedom of the press, which Guevara openly discussed as being counterintuitive to revolution, we can safely conclude the reason as to why Castro gets more publicity for this topic is because he was the one performing the actions on behalf of Che Guevara. With this in mind, the new revolutionary Cuban government eradicated illiteracy so effortlessly because of their ideology of people standing together. In 1961, a major call for volunteer teachers was made across the nation. One said teacher in particular, by the name of Norma Gillard, explained how she felt about the effort at the time.
En mi reciente 58 años cumplido el 22 de mayo, no tengo otra cosa con una fuerza tan grande como esa para... Y que me evoque a su vez, cuando comienzo a hablar de ella, me evoca para la historia de mi vida las cosas más importantes.
The movement was a success. Think of Che Guevara as you may, but do not doubt the reality. He may have been a murderous and bloodthirsty man, but statistically, he was a passionate hero to ultimately save the Cuban people, of whom really viewed him admirably. Education was only one of many indisputable improvements made with him around, and if it weren't for his death in 1967, he would have been able to do much more. In fact, he died in combat while performing an uprising in another Latin American country, seemingly to spread what he had began in Cuba. At last, Guevara was stopped, and while the damage he has dealt is a thing of the past, the evident highs of his career are still observed today.